segue into the InEOS stuff, right? Because it kind of touched a little bit on players already, but with InEOS, I love what Barada said this week. Well, what we heard him say this week, which is, and I love this because, I've always said, and this isn't about me wanting to be right, it's just my beliefs, that it's going to take years to fix, but if we create a club-based model, we can have sustainability for years. I loved hearing Barada say we don't just want to win a Premier League and then drift away again. We want to be up there competing every single year. And this is why when it comes to what Arsenal are doing right now, as much as there are no trophies, I understand why their fans are excited because they know they're going to be in and around it. With Man United, yes, we won an FA Cup and a Carabao Cup in the last 2 years, and that's amazing. But look how we feel about challenging for the league. Look how we feel about winning a big major European trophy. There's almost little to no hope. So the question I've got for you all is, do you guys believe it hasn't been the greatest start on the pitch? Very good off the pitch. I'm going to go to Dev first on this. How happy are you with InEOS, and do you believe in their plan? And can you see us getting back to the very top of English and European football?
I am absolutely ecstatic with InEOS. Like when I say in terms of the transfers that we've done and the window, in context, you have to say it's one of the best windows, definitely one of the best we've had in over a decade. And when you're looking at off the pitch, we've always said that football people in football roles, and everyone here can agree, we finally have football people in football roles. But it isn't just that. I love the thinking and the ideas behind the people that we're actually bringing in. So we're not just getting Christopher Vivell in for a little bit and seeing what happens. He's there and he's gone and done the Kone deal and he's staying until February, probably till the end of the season. We'll see how that goes. And that is one of the more minor changes that have been made. But then you got Wilcox and you've got Ashworth, and we can all say, looking at what's happened to Newcastle and looking at the kind of bands we can have with them, Ashworth has done a fantastic job. We would have all said we want deals that have got a good profile of player, which we've done. We've got deals which are well structured. We've got deals that work for us long term. He's done all of those things. Brilliant. But the ones that I'm also really excited about is that we have a director of sport as well in Brailsford. And it's like, will we start adopting a multi-sport model like the likes of Bayern and Real Madrid do, that keep them sustainable as a brand in different sports as well as football? You never know. And now we've also got Jean-Claude Blanc, who has got a seat on the European Committee as well, who's going to be building relationships with these clubs, which David Gillard had. And we saw what success that did in terms of brokering deals on a higher level and on a pitch level. So InEOS, for me, I can't. Had all this stuff happened last season, the head loss would have been enormous, and I would have joined in probably, and I'd have been like, where did we go? And I hit rock bottom like a couple times realistically under the previous ownership, because you always think, where's the hope? What can you get excited about? What is there? We have hope, and not just that, we now have some of the most switched on minds in the football community working for our club, and everyone recognizes them as that. So as much as people will be like, oh, they should have got Ugarte in earlier, not if we're going to pay the money that we did before. Is losing out on Branthwaite a sign of weakness? Not if we were going to commit to 80 million like the other ones would have done. We've brought in a team that are holistic, that understand their duties, that are clearly working well. And finally, for the first time, looking from upstairs and looking from the back room and onto the pitch, I have hope. So they couldn't have done more, in my opinion.
Just very quickly on ownership. We will be touching on this properly tomorrow morning when I've had a chance to read it. But Todd Bowley is looking to sell his shares in Chelsea's ownership. And there are big talks of huge rifts amongst their ownership, and they want to get out. I want to read the story before I make any kind of comments on it directly. However, I think it does go to show that all the gaslighting, that the running, the ownership, and the operation has been great. The fact that there's a number of them that want to fail and they're falling apart and they're arguing. But yeah, I mean, Matt Law has said it and a few others, but I'm going to read the story a little bit more later. Sophia, from your point of view, do you agree with where Dev's coming from? Although we're not seeing the results on the pitch as of yet, have you been encouraged by the direction that Man United are going in?
Yeah, I would say so. I'm not like maybe super giddy or really excited, but I'm open-minded. I'm still maybe looking at them a little bit sideways when it comes to certain decisions, in terms of the Sancho going to a Chelsea one. out of left field for me. Not that I'm saying I wasn't happy with him. Well, I'm not happy, but I'm okay with him leaving. I just didn't want him to go to a rival such as a Chelsea. But it is what it is. Also with maybe how they've kind of operated with the women's team as well. But I'll give them time to work that out as well. It is encouraging to see the likes of Scott McTominay has left and some other players as well that we've offloaded. Of course, it would have been great to see Maggie and Vicky go, but it is what it is, meaning obviously Maguire and Lindelöf. But we have to be realistic. We can't do everything in one window, so we have to just kind of take it one step at a time. But it is encouraging, and hopefully we can sort out that whole thing with Ten Hag. I mean, if stuff, not that we're going to go back with the whole decision whether or not we're going to keep him or not, but if results doesn't tend to be better, the performance gets better, then I need them to kind of say goodbye, thank you, get somebody else, whether it be a Rude that stays for a little bit until we get the actual guy that we need. We'll see. But there are some positives, and I am open minded. I am, open minded for sure. Hopeful.
There shouldn't be a single Man United player on this planet who is not somewhat hopeful, excited, happy that we've got the ownership that we've got. When I see people complain about them, I'm just like, you guys really just want to be in the pit still. Oh, we didn't get to Qatar. Qatar would have done what? Made us play like flipping Barcelona prime in 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. People were complaining that the roof was still leaking after 2 months of owning the club. It's foolish. It's foolishness. It's absolute foolishness. And people need to realize that these guys are serious. These guys are people who want to change around, and they're doing the right things to get there. I'm just gonna say one player's name that we signed. Lenny Yoro. Okay? Name me a time post Fergie, even during Fergie's time, that we would have been able to poach a player from Real Madrid. And don't hit me with the whole, they only wanted to play this amount, and that's why you got him because they pulled out. No. We know what Real Madrid are like. They get the man that they want. And the fact that they didn't shows that we are building something serious here. And no one can chat to me about none of our CVs of our structure. We used to have Murtaugh. Murtaugh was the only football guy there, and he wasn't good enough. We had Woodward. We had what's his name? Who took over? Arnold. And all the Matt Judge and all these other guys. Yeah, not
Judge.
We have now brought in a man who was part of the City group, knows it's an inside and out, who's hungry to go get promoted. One of the reasons why he left is because there was no chance of progression in that City structure. Fair enough that it's world class, but he was hungry to go and come to this club and turn it around. You've got one of the best sporting directors in the world with Dan Ashworth, who, by the way, was worth the flipping weight, because Newcastle were trying to charge us £20 million for this brother. 20 million. And guess what? We got him for 2. So all this whole laugh at United, we're making him wait for Ashworth. He's actually not that good. We're rinsing for money. Yo, as much as I like Paul Mitchell, how's that going for you, man, over there? So don't chat to me about Ashworth, okay? And number 3, Wilcox, yeah? He was instrumental in the dominance of Man City's academy. He was there with the likes of Jadon Sancho, Phil Foden coming through the ranks. You know, he was there when they're winning, sweeping up PL2s, FA Youth Cups, all these things. He was part instrumental of that. And then Vavell. That was the surprise of it all. Vavell. The CV on that man is beautiful. The work he's done at the Red Bull clubs, beautiful. It didn't work out at Chelsea, but guess what? Early days of Chelsea and the Clear Lake and Holy was a mess anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, I want to I completely agree as well. Like, just to make this point, like, I want to also talk about Jean-Claude Blanc a little bit more, because as I've looked into him a bit more, like, the fact that the man went into Calciopoli kind of when the house was falling down, no fault of his own, but when the house was falling down, and he preserved what he could out of Juventus. And not only they were expected to come back to Serie A, but to then dominate Serie A for as much as they have. After that, is nuts how he's done that. And to also be the one that helped broker the game-changing Jordan deal for PSG, like the sponsorship Jordan deal for PSG, which was one of the best in Europe, and that was for PSG. I know they had money, but it was still PSG at the time. No one saw them like that. And he helped with the Beckham deal as well. The guy, and now he's on the board of the European Committee. Like I think that is the most exciting one for me.
And to add on to that, it's like it's not like Juventus is in Milan or Rome. Like they're in Turin. Like that's like not like like I get it. So one thing I've been InEOS in before they even got here. The moment when a lot of people may not have seen it, a lot of people did, and a lot of people turned on Sir Jim when he did this, is when he went on a national like broadcast interview or whatever, and somebody asked him about the Glazers, and his response was, "They're nice people." I had a feeling in that moment. I was like, "Oh, this man's gonna like that right there." That's how you do business. No, that's how you do business. I'm sorry, anybody who knows business, and I know people are gonna come. If I see the chat saying Qatar would have been better, all of you got duped. Qatar literally used United for PR sports washing, and it's the most. I one day, if I ever write a thesis about PR and sports washing, I'm going to use this as an example. I will find, because what they did is they found the most toxic situation in sports. They came in and said they were going to buy us, do all these things, and at no point did they make any actual moves to do it. And the fact is, everybody ate it up. They fell for the vitriol. They all then went after Sir Jim because he did this deal that allowed him a chance to have full control of the club, but didn't get the Glazers out. This man who has built an empire knew exactly what the fuck he was doing from the start. If you analyze all of his moves, even the putting his hand up to buy Chelsea at the last minute, he knew he wasn't going to do it, but he just told the world, I have enough money to buy a club. I'm out there. I'm going to buy a club. Just wait for it. And then shortly after, what happened? So we are dealing with a structure right now and a bunch of people who aren't just sport, like it's a very strong sporting structure, but they're also business savvy, which is something Man United can't lose. We have to keep it a buck. At the end of the day, if there's one thing Woodward did, was the commercial stuff, and that was extremely important for United. It really was, like getting the shirt deals, all that stuff. It is. I listen. Yeah. I absolutely hate Ed Woodward, but I'm a marketer, and I can fully sit back and say that the reach that United had across the world for a long time, obviously on the back of their success, also comes from their ability to get the sponsorships, to put us in that light, to build the brand. And that's what they did, because here in Canada, there's 5 teams that people talk about, and United's still the top team when you do any analytics, and we suck. And that's very difficult to do in North America. When you're a bad team, people typically just they don't like you. You're going to fall off, but you still see the kits. You still see people supporting. We still have supporters bars everywhere. It's because the brand was built so strong. Will that last forever? Probably not. We have to hope we start winning again, because that's sport. But anyway,
I think you make a great point. Anyone who thinks INEOS are doing it to make money in the future, let's just say you're right. The only way they're going to make a genuine return on their investment is by making us good again, because it isn't like the Glazers that bought us for free. It isn't like the even with Clear Lake with Chelsea, they got them at a cut price deal because that was that was like a shotgun wedding, and it got forced through quickly because of the circumstances. It's different. And one of Jim Radcliffe's quotes is that we had more accountants than people who know football. That for me, that sounds that massive. The only element though that I'm still waiting on is I'm waiting to hear about the plan to get rid of the Glazers completely. Because once I know that exists and there's one in place, then I'm going to start buying kits.
Yeah, but Terry,
I'm going to get season tickets again. I'm going to start putting my money back into the club, because I did 3-4 years ago now. I boycotted the club financially because I thought that was the only way to get rid of the Glazers. So that's the only thing I'm waiting on, is for there to be an interview where, I don't know, so Jim says something to the effect of, in a more complicated breakdown, but we've got a plan, and if we achieve X, Y, and Z, then we get the opportunity to buy their shares by this date. Then I am throwing money, bruv. I am spending.
I don't think you're ever going to get
the stadium. For me, it's the stadium, because that's when we'll know that they put in their own money, because to do the stadium that they want, they're going to need public funding, but that's going to cost a lot of their own money.
That's my favorite bit of all of this as well, the way other fans from other clubs are getting angry about this public funding thing. And it's like, well, no, the public isn't going to fund the public's not going to fund Man United Stadium per se. That will be InEOS, not the Glazers, Man United, and there'll be more private investors, sponsors. Will probably get a stadium sponsor. Do you know what I mean? And I don't really care. You know, if it's the Apple Stadium, I'm still calling it Old Trafford. It doesn't really matter to me personally. But that's how that will get paid for. However, the public funding is building the infrastructure around it. But the infrastructure they're going to build around it will enable us to build 100,000 plus seat stadium. It will become a place where, again, I don't know if you've been around Old Trafford, but when you go there during the daytime, it's a little busier now. But when I lived in Manchester, if you went there off of match days, there wasn't a great deal going on around there. And they've built things now. There's like, obviously, just across the bridge, they've got all the sort of studios and everything else. So it's built up more over the years. But if they build complexes there, homes there, cinemas, restaurants, bars, etc., that's going to become a hub, and that is going to generate even more income for Man United. And I think if and when that goes through, that will be an idea. But I agree with a lot of what you have said. I fervently believe they will turn us eventually, 3-4 years plus, they will turn us back into contenders again, and they will get Manchester United back to, I don't want to say where we belong, because that sounds a bit like we're sort of entitled to it, and we're not, and nobody's entitled to anything. I think it'll get us back to where I think a club with our prestige and our income and the amount of money we spend should really be, because we've spent more money than City in the last 10 years. As much as, you know, people hate City, we've spent more money than them, but we've misspent it, we've been mismanaged, and we shouldn't be where we are. And that's no disrespect to any other football club in the pyramid, but it's just based on, you know, what we invest in and everything else. And I just always have had, since they've got involved. I was someone that wanted the Qataris, by the way, but I wasn't someone that was against Sir Jim. It never made sense. Everyone was twerking for Sir Jim when he did the Chelsea interview. And the day that the Qataris come along, and look, if Qatar would have bought the club, look, I look at what they've done at City, I look at what they've done at other clubs, and I'm like, I think they would have also done potentially a very, very, very good job if that would have all happened. Potentially, they would have done a very good job. But I never understood suddenly the anguish towards Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And I got that people thought there was going to be double debt, but it was quite well reported straight away that any debt that InEOS took out would be on InEOS, and they would pay it back, and it would be essentially scribed in the sort of shareholder agreement that debt would never be paid by the football club. I don't care what debt InEOS has got. They're worth £67 billion. They're fine. Like they're genuinely fine. And when people talk about the ownership, I only looked at this the other day. If you look at Premier League owners, if people want to look at finances, so you get a lot of fans of clubs that go, oh, you know, United are one of those clubs that are sort of pushing to like for FFP to stay because they don't want to be able to compete. Well, if you look at the value of every owner in the Premier League, Newcastle top it. Their owners are worth 620 billion. Man City coming fourth on 16 billion. But Aston Villa are ahead of Man City on 17 billion. Manchester United are second on 20 billion. So we have the second wealthiest owners and club in the country. So this idea that Man United fans especially are, we've got poor broke owners. I mean, people actually used to call Sir Jim broke. Yeah, and by the way, that's Sir Jim's like net worth. You're not even including InEOS's. InEOS as a business is worth even more. But listen, I think they would love it. I think part of them would love it if some of these PSR rules went and they could just spend whatever they wanted, because I guarantee you we'd have signed some even better players this summer if there was no PSR. I can assure you. So